यत्तदाग्रे विषम् इव परिणामे मृतोपमम् तत्सुखं सात्विकं प्रोक्तम् आत्मबुद्धिप्रसादजम्. Synonyms: yat, which, that agre, in the beginning, visham iva, like poison, pariname, at the end, amrita, nectar, upamam, compared to, that sukham, happiness, satvikam, in the mode of goodness, proktam is said, atma, in the self, buddhi of intelligence, prasadajam, born of the satisfaction. Translation: that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization is said to be the happiness in the mode of goodness. Purport: in the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, but like bitter like poison. But if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. So you must have heard that saying, right? What is, mm, yeah, this is a saying. This is from coming from here. What is like poison in the beginning will be like nectar. What is in the beginning like nectar will be the poison at the end. Many examples, personal examples also we can quote. The student follows so much sacrifice the student does to do his school studies, and then he gets the good marks and he graduates from the school college, and then eventually he will, based on that education, he will get some job which gets him a better position monetarily to live in the world. So that's one example. Like, students work hard so much. That's why they say as student life has to be very strict. That is the reason. Like, as much as they can, it has to be strict because brahmachari has to be very strictly following all the rules. So they have to be very strict with themselves. Then their future life can be better. So that is what the Gurukul system also teaches, right? The students in the Gurukul are very, very strictly given all this very strict um, process they have to go through, like making rigid timelines and strict regimen. That is good for them. The self-discipline builds there, and then finally when they become adults, that continues and they have their choice to live in their life. So that is how it is. In the beginning, it may look very hard, it may be very difficult to go through, but the end outcome will be good. Krishna is saying that in the what is just like poison in the beginning will turn out to be nectar. And what to speak of the spiritual knowledge, when we this is still material, right? When the student life is still material, but as a spiritualist, if they can follow their uh, spiritual life very strictly, going through all the process, all the regulations, eventually what they will get in the end, they'll get Krishna in the end, right? That is in the mode of goodness, self-realization. And what self-realization they get as part of following that process is in the mode of goodness. But what happens to be very easy for the senses, which appears as a nectar in the beginning, but will be poison at the end, that is in the mode of passion. Eventually, that's what is going to say. Anati Mataji, can you read?
Me, Mataji?
Yeah.
Okay. विषयेन्द्रिय संयोगात् यत्तत् अग्रे मृतोपमं परिणामे विषम् इव तत्सुखं राजसं स्मृतम्. Synonyms: Vishaya, of the objects of the senses, Indriya, of and the senses, Samyogat, from the combination, Yat, which, Tat, that, Agre, in the beginning, Amrita Upamam, just like nectar, pariname, at the end, visham iva, like poison, tat, that, sukham, happiness, rajasam, in the mode of passion, smritam, is considered. Translation: that happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at first becomes poison, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. Purport: A young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, and have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end or after some time, it becomes like just like poison. They are separated, or there is divorce, there is lamentation, there is sorrow, etc. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. Hare Krishna.
Right. So when the senses are active, when the senses demand things and we supply whatever senses demand, that may look very nice in the beginning, but eventually, when the sensual thing goes off, that varies down, the mind intelligence take precedence or they take a higher position, then that will the reality will come up, and then there will be distress. So one should that is in a mode of passion. So one should be wary of that, aware of that. Next will be ignorance. We'll quickly go through this. Amrita Mataji and Prabhu, you can read one after the other.
Yes, okay. 39, I will read it, Prabhuji. Mataji. 39, verse number. Yat agre cha anubande cha sukham mohanam atmana nidra alasya pramad uttham tat tamasam utahatam. Synonyms. Uh, Yat, that which, agre in the beginning, cha also, anubandhe at the end, cha also, sukham happiness, mohanam illusory, atmana of the self, nidra sleep, alasya laziness, pramada and illusion, uddham produce of, tad that, tamasam in the mode of ignorance, uthahartam is said to be. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Purport. One who takes pleasure in laziness and sleep is certainly in the mode of darkness, ignorance, and one who has no idea how to act and how not to act is also in the mode of ignorance. For the person in the mode of ignorance, everything is illusion. There is no happiness either in the beginning or at the end. For the person in the mode of passion, there might be some kind of ephemeral happiness in the beginning and at the end distress. But for the person in the mode of ignorance, there is only distress both in the beginning and at the end. Hare Krishna.
Correct. So the person in the which is who the person is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from the beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Any examples of this where there is distress from the beginning till the end? Taking to intoxication. For us, they may think they're enjoying, people are taking, but from looking at it, how the effects are, there is only distress. Because intoxication is, I don't think there is any taste in that, but people enjoy that. So for us, I mean, generally speaking, they're only distress. Like they have to go to put their body so much of distress, getting that intoxication to their bodies. It's not easy to do that. It's so hard, right? So that there is distress from the beginning, and what they get out of it is also distress. That's more distressful, the effects of it. So that is the mode of ignorance because they're in illusion, thinking that they will get some happiness, but there is no happiness from the beginning till the end. And of course, sleep and laziness are generally common. People are general, yeah. Next, Gauri Mataji, want to read the 40.
न तदस्ति पृथिव्यं वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्त्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेवि स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः. Synonyms. No, not that asti there is prithivyam on the earth, va or Divi in the higher planetary system, Deveshu among the demigods, Va or Puna again, Sattvam existence, Prakriti Jai born of material nature, Muktam liberated, Yat that AB from the influence of those, Syat is Tribi three, Gunai modes of material nature. Translation. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. Purport. The Lord here summarizes the total influence of the three modes of material nature all over the universe.
Yeah, so this was the section that we finished. There is no being that is existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is not affected by the modes. Even in the higher planets, there are modes that are maybe in a lesser quantity, but they are there. Because the material world is overcome by the modes start in the beginning of creation. So, and the higher planetary systems are part of the creation, so they are also subjected to the modes. So everyone is subjected to the modes. And this is a section Krishna is concluding. We pull up that slide where we have the chapter, right? Yeah, 5 factors. First is freedom from bondage through karma yoga. And the 5 factors and the modes that control all activities in all beings. That was the section, biggest section. 18 to 40. We just concluded. The modes are very active and it affects all the spheres of life. In how we eat, in how we get knowledge, in how we conduct ourselves, how we worship, how we do austerities, what kind of happiness we get from these three modes, what of happiness in the three modes. All that is explained in 18 to 40. Now we're going to move into purification through prescribed duties of Varnashrama. Varnashrama is the system that is in the Vedic system where based on one's inclinations and the social orders, there are divisions that are created. Social orders and inclination, that is Varnashrama, Daiva Varnashrama or Varnashrama system. Purification, but if you at least follow that, as per your inclination, you do the activities, being in your ashram, there is definitely progress. The purification happens, and through that purification, progress happens. So by doing the prescribed duties, so 41 to 48, Krishna is going to speak. Prabhu, I think you didn't read. Please read.
Yeah.
And also explain.
Okay. Explain what, Mataji?
That verse 41, what you're going to read.
41. Okay. Brahman Kshatriya Visham Shudranam cha Parantapa Karmani Pravibhaktani Swabhav Prabhaver Gunhe. Brahmana of the Brahmanas, Kshatriya the Kshatriyas, Visham and the Vaishyas, Shudram of the Shudras, Cha and Parantapa, O subduer of enemies, Karmani, the activities, Pravibhaktani are divided, Swabhava, their own nature, Prabhava, born of Guna, by the modes of material nature. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, O chastiser of the enemy. So here you see Krishna is explaining that uh, born after their own modes of nature, material nature, all these Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas and Shudras, their qualities are decided based on their modes of nature, in which mode of nature they are working. Brahmanas in mode of different modes, Kshatriyas in different modes, and all four in different modes, how they work. I think that will be explained in the subsequent verses.
Oh. Yeah, 41 to 48. Let's go.
Yes.
Oh, not much. Yeah. How the Brahmanas operate. Yeah, just read. Veena Mataji, please read. This is a famous verse.
Hare Krishna. 1842. Samodama Shaucham Shantir Arjavam Evacha Jnanam Vijnanam Astikyam Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. Synonyms: Sama, peacefulness; Dama, self-control; Tapaha, austerity; Shaucham, purity; Shanti, tolerance; Arjavam, honesty; Eva, certainly; Cha, and Jnanam, knowledge; Vijnanam, wisdom; Astikyam, religiousness; Brahma, of a Brahmana; Karma, duty; Swabhavajam, born of his own nature. Translation: peacefulness, self control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Hare Krishna.
So the Brahmanas' qualities are peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. So these are the qualities by which the Brahmanas operate. Right? You can relate to this. Brahmanas, peaceful, self-control, they're very austere, they're very pure, they tolerate, they're very honest, knowledgeable, wise, and very religious. Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. Next. I think I have to. Did we cover everyone in one time? Right. Shauryam tejo drite daksham yuddhe chapi apalayanam danam ishvara bhavascha kshatram karma swabhavajam. Shauryam, heroism; Teja, power; Dhritihi, determination; Daksham, resourcefulness; Yuddhe, in battle; Cha, happy; and Api, also; Apalayanam, not fleeting; Danam, generosity; Ishvara, of leadership; Bhavaha, the nature; Cha, and Kshatram, of a Kshatriya; Karma, duty; Swabhavajan, born of his own nature. Translation: heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas, they are very heroic, they're very powerful, they show a lot of determination, they're very resourceful and courageous and very generous and leaders. They are natural leaders. In the sense, like Kshatriyas, not everyone is a natural leader, but then they develop those qualities, leadership qualities, because they have to rule people. Then they have to rule people, they have to take care, protect them. So that way they become heroic, and they develop other qualities, because to protect someone, they also need resources. And they have to be willing to give that resources also. So they become generous. And that's how they develop their qualities. They are very naturally, that's how they are in the Kshatriya families. That is how it is. Based on that category, their people take birth in those communities. Kanti Mataji, please read.
Yeah. 18.44. कृषि गोरक्ष्य वाणिज्यं वैश्यकर्म स्वभावजं परिचार्यात्मकं कर्म सूत्रस्यापि swabhavajam. Synonyms: krishi, plowing; go, of the cows; rakshya, protection; vanijyam, trade; vaishya, of the vaishya; karma, duty; swabhavajam, born of his own nature; paricharya, service; atmakam, consisting of; karma, duty; sudrasya, of the sudra; api, also; swabhavajam, born of his own nature. Translation: farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work of the Vaishyas, and for the Sudras there are labor and service to others. Hare Krishna.
Rishikova Raksha Vanijyam means that is cow protection. Vanijyam is a small business that they do. Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. So that is a Swabhava of a Vaishya. And Paricharyatmakam Karma, and being doing service to others Paricharya karma is serving the other three classes. That is Sudrasyapi Swabhavaja. That is there. So if we serve any other person other than the above four, if we're not a Brahmana who is self-study, teaching, preaching, giving charity, receiving charity, and a Kshatriya who's heroic, who's powerful, resourceful, leader, protecting, and Vaishya, cow protection, farming, then trading. These are the qualities. If other than this, if we are doing any other work, they are all Shudras, as per Bhagavad Gita. Sudras means we are serving other people. We work in a company. That means because we are not doing any of these what Krishna is laid out. We are not doing farming. We are not doing crop protection. Not some trades. Because we are serving some other person who may be owning that trade, but we are not the owners. So in that case, we are all Sudras. Mataji, from 45 and 46. You are muted.
Okay. Okay. 45. स्वे स्वे कर्माणि अभिरथा संसिद्धं लभते नरा स्वकर्म निरता सिद्धं यथा विन्दति तत्क्षणो. स्वे स्वे, each his own, कर्माणि work, abhiratha following, Samsiddham, perfection. Labate, achieves. Nara, a man. Swakarma, in his own duty. Niratha, engaged. Siddhim, perfection. Yatha, as. Vindati, attains. Tad, that. Shrunu, listen. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done.
By following, so even if you're a Brahmana, if you're a Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, if you follow your own qualities of work, there will be perfection. Krishna already said in the 3rd chapter, like, do your work, don't try to do others' work. Because even if you do your own work imperfectly, it's still good for you. If you do others' work, even if you do perfectly, it is not good for you. He's already said that. So now he's telling this summary of the everything that he has spoken, right? So he's again repeating this. By following qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. This has got some purport. Okay. Prabhu, please read.
46.
46.
46. 46.
यतः पर्वतिर्भूतानां येन सर्विदं ततं स्वकर्मणा तमस् स्वकर्मणा तम्भ्यर्च्यम्
Abhyacharya.
तम अभ्यचर्य सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः यतः from whom pravritti the emanation bhutanam of all living entities yena by whom sarvam all idam this tatam is pervaded swakarmana by his own duties tam him abhyarcha by worshipping siddhim perfection vindati achieves manvaha a man by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. As stated in the 15th chapter, all living beings are fragmental parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the beginning of all living entities. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asya Yataha. The Supreme Lord is therefore the beginning of the life of every living entity. And as stated in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord, by his two energies, his external energy and internal energy, is all pervading. Therefore, one should worship the Supreme Lord with his energies. Generally, the Vaishnava devotees worship the Supreme Lord with his internal energy, and his internal energy. His external energy is a perverted reflection of the internal energy. The external energy is a background, but the Supreme Lord, by the expansion of his plenary portion of as Paramatma, is situated everywhere. He is the super soul of all demigods, all human beings, all animals, everywhere. One should therefore know that as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one has his duty to render service unto the Supreme. Everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is recommended in this verse. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of the senses, and by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 12.7, Tesham aham samudhrata. The Supreme Lord Himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Would you like to add anything to it?
See, they have referred to that whatever is our nature. Uh, say we are by our nature we are a kshatriya, and we want to do something which is not in our nature, and though other things we can do perfectly, still he is advising we should do only those things which are which are in our nature, not though we may not be able to do that perfectly. And here he is emphasizing that uh, devotional service to the Lord. By serving the Lord also only we can achieve the highest perfection. That is the highest goal of our life. This is the perfection of life. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham aham samudhrata. The Supreme Lord Himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. So that is the highest perfection of life in whatever occupation we may be engaged. If he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection.
Yeah. So
Okay,
everyone
Babu.
should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of the senses. So whatever service or occupation we are engaged in, we should think that it is by the master of the senses, Rishikesha. And by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of God, Shri Krishna, should be worshipped. Through our work, we should worship the Supreme Lord. Like we should say, this work we are doing is for the Lord, not for myself. If you have that consciousness, then if one thinks in that way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The perfection of life, we may say that we don't directly do any direct devotional service constantly. Like we do some in the morning, some in the evening, but throughout the day we are engaged in other ugra karma is what it is said. When we are serving other people, it is called ugra karma. But since we are engaged, we have been put in this situation by some destiny, by will of the Lord. We can do that work for the pleasure of the Lord and become fully Krishna conscious in that way. And when we do that, then that is a perfection of life. The Lord says in 12:7, Taisham ham samuddhata, mrityu samsara sagarat, bhavami na chirat partha, maya veshada chetasa. So that is what he says. So I will take you, if you become, I will take you from the birth and death cycle, mrityu samsara sagarat. I will take you, I will discharge you. If you do this devotion service, this is from, in the beginning, he says, do the personal, but whoever worships me, that is the best. And then he talks about the impersonalism also, 2.4, 12.45, something like that. He speaks about the impersonalism. And after that, whoever worships me directly, I will take personal charge of them and deliver them from the cycle of birth and death. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if we serve the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. So whatever we are doing, we can worship the Lord through our work. So this is for Krishna, not for me. Although I am getting remuneration, but the work itself I am doing for Krishna. If we can keep Krishna in the center of our work, of our life, then that is where we are making progress. Because otherwise it will become like work is separate, Krishna consciousness is separate. I do work and I do Krishna consciousness separately. So we should bring those two together. How? By working for Krishna. Although I'm going to an office, but my work is for Krishna. If we can keep that consciousness. Although I'm going to do some job that to please a boss, but ultimate boss is Krishna. Maybe he is an immediate boss, but through my work, I will ultimately satisfy Krishna. If we can keep that conscious, then our work becomes Krishna consciousness. So we are doing devotional service right in the work that we are doing also. Anybody has any reflections on this point or any practice that I have done and want to share anything? Or any questions?
Mataji, you see in this verse 41, where you see they relate all these Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishya, and Shudra to different modes of nature. So, according to you see the examples which Prabhupada has given for all these you see categories, they work in all these modes of nature. You see, predominantly Brahmanas are in goodness, but we find you see Brahmanas when they are doing their work for some charity or donation, then you see they might be in the passion, and when they are not doing it correctly, and they are not you see following the Vedic rituals, then they may be in the ignorance. So similarly, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, all these are will also be working in different modes at the different times. So we cannot say that Brahmanas are always in goodness or Shudras are always in ignorance. Say a Shudra is one who is say doing menial service for others. Say in case a Shudra is working in a temple, so he is doing a goodness work. He is in goodness at that time. So, similarly, you see Vaishyas, they are mercantile people. So in case he's doing hoarding, he's doing a nice business, he might be in goodness or in passion. But in case he's hoarding and you see for his self benefits, he's doing something. He must be in ignorance.
Correct. So when can that consciousness shift happens? If we do it for ourselves, then we hoard. If we do it for
Yes.
ourselves, we cheat. But if we do for Krishna, that consciousness shift
Yes,
will
we
happen.
will.
So that's why Krishna is telling,
Conscience.
keep me in the center in wherever you do, even you are doing business. Because if you do
Yeah.
business for me, then there will be honesty. Right? If we do business for oneself, then they will hoard, they will cheat, they will do whatever. Same everywhere. Brahmanas also, even though they are in the mode of goodness work, they can be very passionate about it in the way they do.
Yes.
Very, very passionately they can do, just to prove themselves, to show that they have that much knowledge or whatever. So, but then everything, if they can keep Krishna in the center. So this is, see, Krishna consciousness is not something apart from our nature. It's not something away from us. It is very near, something that is very close to us. So all we have to, it's internal thing mostly. Externally, there are some process, there are some rituals, that procedures are there. We do aarti this way, we chant japa, which is obvious to see people. That is why purification internally, but externally there is some activity happening, internal purification. But other than these things that we keep doing at certain times in the day, most of the thing that we do can be very internal work. It's a very internal process. Like I'm doing this for the pleasure of Krishna. Anything that we do, for the pleasure of Krishna. If we keep doing that in our mind, keeping our consciousness in that state, that is the maximum purification we can get. Because otherwise the chanting will become only, we become Krishna conscious, think of Krishna only for that part of the time. Only when we are doing aarti or directly deity worship, cooking or something. But other than that, everything else I will do will be whatever consciousness, and that is not adding up. The time it takes for us to progress will not add up. It will be very distinct time. The sets of activities very distinct. Chanting, cooking, working is totally, because that takes a bigger chunk of work of our life, bigger part of our life. And in a day it takes more hours, as well as adding up in the life also it takes more time. So if we keep that separate, then what we are doing directly as service to the Lord will be very, very less compared to what we are doing the other work. So we need to bridge that gap, bring that so that everything becomes an offering. Everything becomes Krishna conscious. So that's why it is an internal work. That's why it is very much internal. External is there, but internal is more to do with internal. So we can practice in that way.
Mataji, I have one question. Like, so would it include, like, when we drive, when we travel, commute, like when we think of Krishna and pray that time internally, and work also sometimes when we get leisure time when we pray internally. Does that mean that this include as well? Oh,
Yes, it does.
okay.
Everything includes.
Not really.
Yes, Prabhu, you want to say?
You see, I was just thinking of some examples. You see, where born Shudras were ultimately, came out to be great saints, or there is Namdev and Tukaram was there, and in Tamil there's Alvars are there, like Namalvars. So they were born as Shudras, but you see, they became equal to the rishis.
Yeah. So, yeah, within the whatever they are doing, they can do it perfectly. So everything adds up. Like we are chanting, you're driving, that also becomes Krishna conscious. You're driving where you're driving and remembering Krishna. So that becomes Krishna conscious activity. Cooking, working. But the thing is, we haven't mastered it. So we have to remember, because Krishna is not in our forefront, in our minds all the time. He's away. I mean, we have kept him away. So it's a practice. That's why we are still practicing Krishna consciousness. We have not perfected. Gopis are the perfected beings. For them, there is no time that they can forget Krishna. There's a thing that they do anything. There's no time. Even if they want to forget Krishna, they cannot. Because that is how much they are Krishna conscious. For us, we are still practicing. That's why we have some chunks of time, morning, afternoon, evening. But if we can keep expanding that, it's all up to, we have to expand, and one day it will become the whole of our life. And there's nothing other than Krishna. Everything is for Krishna. Everything is Krishna. So we can expand like that. That is a perfection of life. We are just starting. We are just minute steps we are making, and we need to become conscious of what we are doing. So before we can become Krishna conscious, we need to become conscious. Conscious is something that we need to use this time for Krishna service. We can become that and slowly expand. That expansion will happen based on the practice. It's all practice. We are trying to do this practice. That is why we are practicing devotional service, not perfected. Okay, we can conclude this chapter, this section, I think, 48 and 47, 48. Let's, Gauri Mataji, please read 47.
श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणा परधर्मात् स्व अनुष्ठितात् स्वभावनित्यं कर्म कुर्वं नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्. Shreyan, better. Swadharma, one's own occupation. Viguna, imperfectly performed. Paradharmat, than another's occupation. So anushtitat, perfectly done, svabhava nityam, prescribed according to one's nature. Karma, work, kurvan, performing, na, never, apnoti, achieves, kilvisham, sinful reactions. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's own nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Purport. One's occupational duty is prescribed in Bhagavad Gita. As already discussed in previous verses, the duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are prescribed according to their particular modes of nature. One should not imitate another's duty. A man who is by nature attracted to the kind of work done by Shudras should not artificially claim to be a Brahmana, although he may have been born into a Brahmana family. In this way, one should work according to his own nature. No work is abominable if performed in the service of the Supreme Lord. The occupational duty of a Brahmana is certainly in the mode of goodness. But if a person is not by nature in the mode of goodness, he should not imitate the occupational duty of a Brahmana. For a Kshatriya or administrator, there are so many abominable things. A Kshatriya has to be violent to kill his enemies, and sometimes a Kshatriya has to tell lies for the sake of diplomacy. Such violence and duplicity accompany political affairs, but a Kshatriya is not supposed to give up his occupational duty and try to perform the duties of a Brahmana. One should act to satisfy the Supreme Lord. For example, Arjuna was a Kshatriya. He was hesitating to fight to the other party. But if such fighting is performed for the sake of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there be no fear of degradation. In the business field also, sometimes a merchant has to tell so many lies to make a profit. If he does not do so, then there can be no profit. Sometimes a merchant says, "Oh, my dear customer, for you I am making no profit." But one should know that without a profit, the merchant cannot exist. Therefore, it should be taken as a simple lie if a merchant says that he is not making a profit. But the merchant should not think that because he is engaged in an occupation in which the telling of lies is compulsory, he should give up his profession and pursue the life of a Brahmana. This is not recommended. Whether one is a Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, it does not matter if he serves by his work the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even Brahmanas who perform different types of sacrifice sometimes must kill animals because sometimes animals are sacrificed in such ceremonies. Similarly, if a Kshatriya engaged in his own occupation kills an enemy, there is no sin incurred. In the third chapter, these matters have been clearly and elaborately explained. Every man should work for the purpose of Yajna or for Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anything done for personal sense gratification is a cause of bondage. The conclusion is that everyone should be engaged according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord.
Correct. So, in here, it is again the point that which he already said in the third chapter, he is repeating. It is better to do one's own occupation, even though it is done imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation perfectly. For described duties, the duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. Yeah, changing one's profession from one to the other is not recommended, is what Krishna is saying. If you are a Brahmana, be Brahmana. Even though there may be some fault in it, you may be doing the Brahmana work in a passionate way. But the idea is to do it in a mode of goodness. But if you cannot do and still do it in the mode of passion, still do that. Because you're not doing Brahmana services properly, don't you change your nature to Kshatriya. Because that's not what you are made for. Your original nature was to be a Brahmana. But you haven't perfected it. But still, there is, if you keep doing it, there will be progress. Because it's anyway, continuity is there. The examples of Prabhupada's quote is quoted is about the merchant. Merchant has to say some lie in his business. But if he says, oh, there is some lies I'm doing, let me do Kshatriya, then that is not right. So better to do your job imperfectly than to do others' job perfectly. Take many examples we can quote in that. Uh, any personal examples you want to say? Anybody has?
I think we should realize what our position is. Like we are in the, like if we are working, even if it's a student, right? Student entering workforce, right? Like we should understand what our position is, that like we are, like it was said in the previous verses, we a Shudra is working for someone else. So we cannot claim to be like not a Shudra when we know that we are working for as a laborer.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that is one. Yeah, we should understand that. But so since this is this whole setup, so we are our society is not in any way in the Varnashrama. In the current day and age, it is not based on Varnashrama system. Brahmanas are all over the place. Brahmanas may be sweepers also. They might be cleaners, cleaning also, even though they are Brahmanas. Similarly, Kshatriyas are they don't have any culture. Only who has extra like arm power, and they become Kshatriyas. Whether they have good character or not, no one knows. Same and the businessmen. Everyone wants to do some business in whichever position they are, and rest of the ones are all Shudras. So the society is not in any way everywhere. Everyone wants to do everything. They want to rule. They want to give preaching to the others, not practicing themselves. Then they want to do business with anything that they find, and they serve the people who are not in any character. So there is no clear demarcation in the current day and age. Varnashrama dharma is not there in the current. It's all broken. There's nothing that we can speak of. It's hard to establish also. Unless people come to Krishna consciousness, it's hard to do this. Unless people know the value of Krishna consciousness, then they will start, okay, now I am a, if everyone in a company are Krishna conscious, for example, within that also, then there can be some system. Like these are the people that I go to, they're Brahmanas, like, for knowledge and to, that is there in every place, but it is all over mix. It's not clearly demarcated, like these are Brahmanas, these Kshatriyas. Society is all chaotic. It's hard to establish. But within the given conditions, each one of us can pursue, continue, push ourselves to become Krishna conscious. And that is where we can make difference to our own lives. It begins with us. And slowly more and more people take to this process, then they can see some change in the place where we live. So that's how it is. Yeah, and then we'll move to the last verse in this section, 48, and we'll conclude. Veena Mataji, can you read?
Hare Krishna. 1848. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham abhinatyajed sarvaram vahi doshena dhumena agnir ivavridah. Synonym: Sahajam, born simultaneously, karma, work, kaunteya, O son of Kunti, sadosham, with fault, api, although, na, never, tyajet, one should give up, sarva arambha, all ventures, He certainly doshena with fault, dhumena with smoke, agni fire, iva as avridaha covered. Translation: every endeavor is covered by smoke fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, O son of Kundi, even if such work is full of fault. Purport. In conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. Even if one is a Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, a Kshatriya, however pious he may be, he has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business, or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of his own nature. A very nice example is given herein. Although fire is pure, still there is smoke. Yet smoke does not make the fire impure. Even though there is smoke in the fire, fire is still considered to be the purest of all elements. If one prefers to give up the work of a Kshatriya and take up the occupation of a Brahmana, he is not assured that in the occupation of Brahmana there are no unpleasant duties. One may then conclude that in the material world no one can be completely free from the contamination of material nature. This example of fire and smoke is very appropriate in this connection. When in winter time one takes a stone from the fire, sometimes smoke disturbs the eyes and other parts of the body, but still one make use of the fire despite disturbing conditions. Similarly, one should not give up his natural occupation because there are some disturbing elements. Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. That is a perfectional point. When a particular type of the occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the results of work are purified when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self realization. Hare Krishna.
Right. So, this point, this section, if you remember, is named progress progress by performing prescribed duties in the varnashram, right? So varnashram, every endeavor is covered by fault, just as for. So finally, Krishna is concluding after he explained everything that brahmanas work like this, kshatriyas work like that, brahma karma swabhavajam, kshatriya karma swabhavajam, so Vaishnava, what is that? Vaishya karma swabhavajam and Shudra karma swabhavajam. So four swabhavas are explained. And after that, do your duty, whether you do it in a wrong way, in imperfect way, because better to do your duty than doing the others' duty. But and also he's saying, yes, I'm telling you do that, but every endeavor is covered by some fault. By giving the example, as the fire is covered by smoke, there is some fault in every endeavor. So don't deter yourself because there is fault in this work. I will not do the work. That's not. This is all to tell Arjuna to fight, isn't it? And in this process, is giving so many instructions. This is to tell Arjuna, Arjuna, you are thinking to give up the fight because you're thinking that you will become a Brahmana and give up. You'll sacrifice and go away. But this is wrong. It's telling Arjuna, this is wrong. You cannot do this. Because do your duty as a Kshatriya, even though if we have to lose the battle, we don't know. But just do it, even though it may be some fault, even if you have to kill people. If that is what it is, but that is the expectation of that ashrama, of that duty. As a Kshatriya, you still have to kill. So there is some fault in it. Killing is not right. There is that fault. So that as the fire is covered by the smoke, every work has some fault in it. So still do it. Therefore, one should not give it up, which is born only of its own nature. As a Kshatriya, you are born to do the fighting. O son of Kunti, even if there is such fault in the work. Even if such work is full of faults, so just do your duty. So this is to tell Arjuna And in that process, we are also learning, right? We are not Kshatriyas, we are not fighting, but we are learning that we have to do our work, not do others' work, even though imperfectly, because there is some fault in every work. Let's do our duty, because that is only you can make progress. Arjuna, if he gives up the kingdom and goes away into the forest, because his nature is as a fighter, as a protector, as a giver, he will not have those resources to give, to protect, to fight. He will not have those resources. He will say, I will become Brahmana and go. I'll give it away and go. But his nature is there, internal, that he has to fight, he has to protect, he has to provide. All that he will not have, and that is a imbalance. That is a chaotic situation when Arjuna does that. All his brothers have to do that, right? But everyone has got Kshatriya qualities in them. They want to go fight. They don't have resources to fight, right? Because you have given up, you cannot fight, they'll say. And they want to protect people. They don't have enough backing to protect people. So all that will become chaotic. That is why Krishna is telling all this to Arjuna, that do your duty, even though faulty. Okay, we have to pause here. 49, 21. Next week. Any questions or any comments? Okay, that will be next week. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
Thank you.
हरे कृष्ण माता जी।
Hare Krishna Mataji.